The raw audio is a chaotic swirl, high-pitched wind whipping across a microphone, the frantic rustle of canvas, heavy, distressed human breathing. Then, a sound that cuts through the noise, a deep, wet, primal growl, immediately followed by a man's scream that is not just pain, but pure, absolute surrender. Voiceover, deep, urgent, a whisper. Forget everything you think you know about bear attacks. This wasn't a defensive swipe. This wasn't a warning. This was an ambush. And the chilling part? It was all recorded. 6 minutes of pure, unedited terror. A man fighting a 1,000-pound ghost. The camera lens cap was on, but the microphone was wide open. The man's voice, Timothy Treadwell, is recognizable but distorted by panic. He is screaming, the microphone close enough to hear the spray of his breath. Timothy, screaming, desperately. Come out here. I'm being killed out here. Amy, come out here, Amy. The sickening, heavy thud of a massive body colliding with a small, fragile human frame. The sound of clothing tearing and then a horrible, wet snap. This is the climax. This is the end. We are starting with the death. A woman's voice, Amy Huguenard, small against the wind, and the monster cuts in. She is inside the tent, struggling to comprehend. Amy, strained, terrified, a voice of reason shattered. Play dead, Timothy, play dead, play dead. The first and last piece of advice. Amy, the physician assistant, the rational scientist, believed the myth. She believed if he stopped moving, the bear would leave. But this bear, Bear 141, was an old male. He wasn't defending. He was hunting. And he was teaching Amy a terrifying lesson. You don't play dead for a predator. You fight, or you die. The struggle intensifies to an unbearable level. Timothy's screams morph into a high-pitched, desperate wail, then stop abruptly, replaced by low, choked sounds, and the bear's heavy, ragged breath dominating the audio. The audio is a living testament to a man's fatal mistake. But Amy, what about Amy? She heard the crushing reality of her lover's end. She had the chance to run, to use the satellite phone, to hide. But the next sound we hear will prove that love is a stronger instinct than self-preservation. A metallic sound like a zipper being violently ripped open, a new burst of sound, a woman's desperate yell, and then the chaos of a new struggle. She charged. She chose the monster over escape. She went from advising him to play dead to attacking a creature that had just torn a man apart. Did she survive this exchange? The tape cuts off. 6 minutes, and then only the whispering wind. But to understand this horror, to comprehend the why of the Grizzly tape, we must go back 72 hours to the quiet lie that sealed their fate. Duristu, a single tattered bright blue baseball cap lying on the edge of a deep, dark pool of water. It's Timothy's. Near it, a few strands of long brown hair. 72 hours earlier, the radio was humming. Pilot Willie Fulton was preparing for his final pickup of the season. He called to check in. Timothy assured him, "Everything's great. We just need one more day of sunshine." One more day. That's all he asked for. That one-day delay was the length of their lives. It cost them everything. Flash forward. A mangled satellite phone. The screen is cracked. A single outgoing call log, 3:58 p.m., the last communication. The park rangers later pieced it together. At 3:58 p.m., Timothy makes his last call to an associate in Malibu. Casual conversation. He said the bears were fine, mellow, preparing to hibernate. 2 minutes later, the camera is on. 2 minutes. What happened in that invisible, terrifying gap? Did he see the shadow and panic? Was he already injured? We don't know. But the last man he spoke to on Earth will carry the weight of that final, carefree conversation forever. Flash forward, a close-up of a small, waterlogged journal. Amy's careful, looping handwriting is visible on a recent page. Amy's words are a desperate, silent cry. Unlike Timothy, she felt the danger. She feared the bears. She wrote, "I'm going to get killed. I have to get out of here." She was counting the hours. The rational side of her was screaming for escape. So why did she stay? The journal holds the key, a single heartbreaking entry about her commitment to him, not the bears. Love kept her in a deadly cage. Flash forward. A park ranger points a rifle at a massive, aging brown bear. The animal is standing over a bloody patch of ground, roaring, challenging the armed men. It is too thin, too frantic, too aggressive. They called him Bear 141, old, past his prime. But the rangers saw something else. They saw a bear who had lost his fear of man, a habituated bear, a bold bear. The Park Service had been warning Timothy for years. Your presence is corrupting the natural behavior of these animals. Timothy ignored them, and the security footage would later reveal something unthinkable about this bear, something that shouldn't be possible, something that proves Timothy's very existence in the wild created the monster that killed him. Flash forward. The idyllic scene, Timothy beaming, filming a cub playing near a salmon stream. His face is a mask of perfect, blissful peace. He is 10 feet away. This was Timothy's heaven, a world he built on trust and proximity. But in the wild, proximity is power. And in the final days of the salmon run, power belongs to hunger. He never carried a firearm. He didn't carry pepper spray. He was bare, trusting, and ultimately defenseless. He lived by the belief that a bear would never hurt him. The final 6 minutes would prove that every single bear in Katmai disagreed. Cut to old, slightly grainy footage of Timothy's early days. He is magnetic, passionate, almost childlike in his enthusiasm. Meet Timothy Treadwell, a failed actor, a recovering addict, a self-proclaimed bear whisperer who changed his name and changed his life. He found salvation in the massive, wild heart of Alaska. He saw the bears not as beasts, but as magnificent innocents. He was an evangelist, a fierce protector. His purpose was to save them from poachers, from the cruelty of man. Archival footage of Timothy interacting with a large bear, talking to it with an almost parental tone. Timothy, on video, earnest, tears in his eyes. I love you. I will protect you. I will die for you. You are my family. For 13 summers, he did it. He slept among them. He swam with them. He was a phenomenon. But his dedication bordered on dangerous delusion. He gave the bears names: the Grinch, Gentle Ben, Rowdy. He anthropomorphized creatures that were pure, magnificent killing machines. His camera was his only connection to the outside world, and he wielded it like a spiritual weapon. Cut to photos of Amy Huguenard, sharp, intelligent eyes, a quiet dignity. And then there was Amy, Dr. Amy Huguenard. She was the one who balanced Timothy's chaos. She was stability, rationality, and structure. She saw the beauty of the bears from a safe distance. She followed Timothy out of a deep, loyal, almost desperate love. She knew the risk. She saw the madness. But the pull of Timothy was stronger than her fear. Photos of Timothy and Amy, embracing on a rocky shore, looking out at the vast ocean. Their life was a whirlwind of passion and danger. She had put her career on hold. They were planning a future away from the tundra, away from the bears. This was supposed to be their final goodbye to Katmai, a quick late-season trip to pack up his equipment and say farewell. She was thinking about wedding dresses and medical school applications. Amy's presence was his last anchor to the human world, but the longer they stayed, the more the anchor dragged. Timothy was desperate to capture one final perfect shot. He was ignoring his pilot's pleas, ignoring his own protocol, ignoring the calendar. Because October in Katmai is not paradise. It's a battlefield. Cut to a close-up of their small, brightly colored tent, zipped shut. Then, a quick flash of the same tent, violently ripped, a dark, viscous stain spreading across the canvas. She had no idea this would be her last morning. She woke up on October 5, 2003, and the air was still cold and heavy. She woke up next to the man who made her risk everything, unaware that the shadow of Bear 141 had been moving for hours, circling the camp, already smelling the proximity, the vulnerability, the prey. September is the season of plenty. October is the season of scarcity. The salmon runs were done. The fat stores of the bears were critical. They needed every calorie to survive the long hibernation. Timothy knew this, but he dismissed it. He saw his friends as plump and happy. He missed the desperate, aggressive edge. Footage from Timothy's camera. A bear walking right up to the lens, sniffing it. Timothy is talking to it softly, a lullaby tone. The warning signs were not subtle. Just days before the attack, Timothy filmed a rare, devastating confrontation between two large males. He was unnerved. He mentioned the increasing aggression in his final journal entries. He was seeing evidence of the predator, but his mind refused to process it. He thought he was immune. He was not. They were surrounded. Their camp was pitched on a low-lying gravel bar, a natural thoroughfare for bears coming down from the mountains to the sea. It was an active bear trail. Their tent was an obstacle, their bodies a tempting diversion. He was camping in the middle of a freeway during rush hour, and then the critical omission, the failure that will haunt the story forever. The only physical barrier they had was a single-strand electric fence, flimsy, but a deterrent. Timothy documented it on October 4th, but he didn't plug it in. He felt it was an unnecessary intrusion into his bear's space. Cut 2, a close-up of a battery terminal disconnected. The small fence wire is slack and useless. The fence was dead, their perimeter breached. He literally disarmed himself and Amy. This wasn't bad luck. This was a direct, catastrophic choice. He made one final mistake that sealed their fate. He chose ideology over survival. The air was thick with tension. Amy, unable to sleep, was reportedly pleading with him to leave. She felt the shadow closing in. She saw the massive tracks near the tent door. She was frantic, but Timothy was fixated on the perfect final shot. He wouldn't leave until he had it. He thought he had all the time in the world. He had 2 minutes. Cut back to pure black. SFX, the wind, the low, distant rumble of a bear's growl that suddenly sounds much closer. At 4:00 p.m., October 5th, the 6 minutes began. The camera clicked on. Timothy had fumbled with it in his terror. The lens cap was left on, and the bear 141, driven by a winter's hunger and a lifetime of human tolerance, finally made his move. The Grizzly tape was rolling, and the sound of the bear's arrival was the beginning of the end of the Grizzly man. The continuation, the predator's profile and fatal flaw, 10+ minutes. Bear 141. The killer was not a stranger. Timothy knew him. He had named him. He had stood near him for years. This bear was an old male, a boar, past his prime, scars on his face. He was in decline, and in the Grizzly world, that's a death sentence. To survive, he needed easy kills. What Timothy failed to realize was that his presence created a deadly paradox. By removing fear, he taught the bear that humans were not to be avoided, but to be considered. Bear 141 knew the tent. He knew the routine. He knew the humans were small, weak, and defenseless. The attack was pure predation, not a swat, not a warning. On the tape, Timothy's scream for help is immediate. The chaos suggests the bear was on him instantly. It was an ambush of precision and brute force. This was not a hungry animal attacking a campsite. This was an experienced hunter taking down prey. Listen to the tape again. The first scream. The sheer intensity. The bear must have had Timothy cornered or pinned immediately. The screams are broken by a sickening, sustained grinding sound. The researchers who later heard the tape believe this was the sound of the bear actively trying to crush his skull or break his spine. And then, Amy's voice. Play dead. She believed the old advice. But when a predator attacks, you must fight back with everything you have. You must make yourself difficult. Playing dead only confirms you are a meal. And then, Amy made her choice. A choice of pure, irrational love. The screams on the tape change dramatically. Timothy's sounds fade, replaced by a fierce sound of struggling, and then a distinct, furious female yell. Amy had emerged. She was fighting, throwing her body against a creature with 5-inch claws and 4-inch canines. She sacrificed her safety for a hopeless cause. The tape captures the terror of Timothy being dragged away deeper into the brush. The final seconds of the recording are the most chilling. A sound like a gasp, and then the tape cuts off. 6 minutes. And then, only the sound of nature claiming its due. What happened to Amy after the tape ended? That is the final heartbreaking mystery. The evidence found later suggested she was pursued. She fled, she ran, but she didn't make it. She died alone, further from the tent, after her lover was gone. Her death was a brutal aftermath of her attempt to save him. Cut to aerial footage of the Katmai campsite showing the terrain, the isolation. When the pilot, Willie Fulton, arrived the next day, the scene was a tableau of horror. A disheveled camp, a large bear guarding the site. He saw the first signs, a cluster of grass stained with blood and a piece of tattered blue clothing. He called the Park Service, uttering the words no one wanted to hear. "I think we have a fatality." Park rangers and Alaska state troopers responded, armed and ready. They found the remains of Timothy first, partial, scattered. The camera was found a few feet from the tent, the tape inside, still on. The killer was still there. Bear 141, the old desperate male, was guarding the kill site. Bear 141 charged the rangers, unafraid. He had lost all fear. He was possessive. 2 shots rang out. Bear 141 was dead. The necropsy was the final, undeniable proof. Human remains and clothing were found in its stomach. The killer was confirmed. The final indignity. The tragedy is the double death. Timothy's was quick and horrific. Amy's was likely a desperate, terrifying final flight. The official report states that Amy's remains were found at a separate location. She ran, trying to escape. She ran, knowing her love was dead. She ran, until the killer caught her. Timothy Treadwell died because he believed in a beautiful lie, that he could transcend the boundary between man and nature. Amy died because she believed in the man. Her sacrifice, unrecorded, unremembered by all but the wind, is the true emotional weight of the Grizzly tape. The questions are not about the bear. The bear was simply a bear. The questions are about the man. Why did he allow himself to become so complacent? Why did he disregard the evidence? He loved the bears, but he loved his own story more. And that vanity, that hubris, ultimately cost 2 lives. His legacy is a paradox. He brought the bears to the world, yet he died proving they were exactly what the Park Service always claimed: wild, dangerous, and governed by instinct, not friendship. He pushed the line one time too many, and the boundary snapped back with terminal force. The burning questions remain. Why did he leave the fence unplugged? Why did he stay so late? The simplest answer is the one that cuts the deepest. He wanted the final perfect shot. He needed the affirmation. He needed the validation. And he gambled with his life and with Amy's on that need. The Grizzly tape is more than just an audio recording of a death. It's a 6-minute sermon on the supremacy of nature. It's a scream frozen in time. It is the chilling, unskippable evidence of what happens when you substitute romantic fantasy for grim reality. Final shot. A slow zoom out on the vast, unforgiving Alaskan wilderness. The tent is gone, the snow is beginning to fall, beautiful, cold, empty. 2 lives, 6 minutes, one final fatal silence. Timothy believed he was a part of the wild, but in the end, he was simply a resource. And the chilling truth is, the very monster he dedicated his life to protecting, the very animal he loved, finally, instinctively, consumed him.